Hello everyone, my name is Margarita Martinez and I'm here to present you my video about fundamental principles of testing. Well, the first two terms we have is competence versus performance. Chomsky drew this distinction between the ideal knowledge of language all major speakers hold in their minds, competence, and the fluid realization of it that comes out in language use, performance. The reason for the concentration on competence at the expense of performance was thought to be beyond study, given that it is unsystematic in nature. Competence was the object of both linguistics and language teachers, in the belief that skill in performance would follow from a study of competence. Then we have usage of the language versus use of the language. Language use refers to the communicative meaning of language. It can be compared to usage, which refers to the rules for making language and the structures we use to make it. Language usage refers to the rules for making language. Example, the structures used. And it can be compared to use, which considers the communicative meaning of language. The following terms are direct and indirect assessment. Direct tests use examples of performance as an indicator of communicative competence. Direct tests use testing tasks of the same type of language in the real world. For example, someone designing a direct test of an air traffic controller's language on the job will choose a simulated air traffic control task. This means that direct assessment may tell you what students learned and how well they learn it, but indirect assessment can give you a more global result, which is the information about how students feel on their learning path. About discrete point and integrative assessment, we have that discrete point here, each item is separated in language, meaning that each item in language can be evaluated. Then we have the integrative assessment, which states that language is indivisible. So testers require items which test the ability to combine knowledge of different parts of the language, and these items are known as integrative or global. Number 5, objective versus subjective assessment. Objective assessment refers to test items that can be marked clearly as right or wrong, as in a multiple choice item, whereas subjective assessment requires that an assessor makes a judgment according to some criteria and experience. We have the most integrative test elements require subjective assessment. The difficulty in subjective assessment arises in trying to achieve some agreement over marks, both between different markers and with the same marker at different times. Receptive versus productive skills. The receptive skills, which are reading and listening, lend themselves to objective marking. The productive skills, speaking and writing, are generally resistant to objective marking. Third-generation testers have assumed the difficulties posed by subjective marking in order to include the productive skills into tests. Backward and forward-looking assessment. In general, competence-based tests look backwards at a usage-based syllables to see to what degree it has been assimilated by the learner. The link to the future use of language can be very tenuous here, as outlined, since the examples of usage in the syllables are usually not related to real language use. Third-generation tests are better linked to the future use of language, and their assessments of real language use also show mastery of a performance-based syllables. Contextualized versus disembodied language. Disembodied language has little or no context. In a testing context, this is most evident in items in a multiple-choice battery based on language usage. The items bear little relevance to each other and act as examples of disembodied language with no purpose other than as part of a test. Integrative items need a full context in order to function. The closer the items in an integrative test are to simulating real-world language tasks, the fuller the context must be. The context includes information about communicative purpose, role relationships, channel of communication, etc. And it is only if all this is made clear to learners through the context that their performance can be appropriated. Criterion referenced and norm referenced assessment. Norm reference tests compare students with an average mark or a passing score in order to make some types of pass-fail judgment on them. The problem with this type of testing is that it's not clear what the norms refers to. The criterion reference assessment compares students not against each other, but with success in performing a task. The results of criterion reference test can be expressed by continuing the sentence, he or she is able to, where the ability may refer to some small or large integrative language task. Last but not least, we have reliability versus validity. Reliability refers to the consistency of the scoring of the test, both between different raters and between the same rater on different occasions. In theory, objective testing should give perfect reliability. However, the faulty tests, for example, an ambiguous multiple choice question, faulty keys, wrong answers on an answer sheet, faulty markers, tired, distracted, etc., can reduce the reliability even of an objective multiple choice test. The subjective assessment inevitable associated with testing the productive skills reduces reliability. Third-generation testers have either chosen to increase assessor standardization or have not chosen to test the productive skills, concentrating instead on the receptive skills. However, choosing not to assess all the skills can be seen as a reduction in the face validity of the test. The test does not seem to be a good, fair, or adequate test of the language. In the case given, a test of only 2 skills cannot be said to be a good test of the learner's performance on the other 2. Then we have many types of validity, such as content validity, the extent to which a test reflects the language of the syllables and the student's language needs. We have construct validity, the extent to which a test reflects current or valid theories of language learning testing. Predictive validity, the extent to which a test assesses future language performance accurately. Concurrent validity, the extent to which a test produces results similar to those produced by an established test. Whether one or other of the above pairs of characteristics is perceived as good or desirable for a given test will depend on testing purpose, on the actual context of a test. There are, however, some characteristics which are generally thought to be desirable for a formal test. These include reliability and validity, although we have already discussed why you can have both at the same time. Other desirable characteristics are utility, discrimination, and practicality. One of the first characteristics is utility, and the more detailed this feedback is, the more useful will be for the future. Discrimination. This is the ability of a test to discriminate between stronger and weaker students. Practicality. This refers to the efficiency of the test in physical terms. Reliability. Again, how consistent the test is. Validity. Informal test has a lot of it. But remember that validity is also about making assessment of the social and educational uses to which a test scores are put on. Thank you very much.